Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel and this amazing video. I'm Aditya. In this video, I want to show you how we can do code refactor in a Vue project and how we can make a usable form component. So without any further ado, let's begin. Okay, so here I have a simple form to create an account. Now there is nothing wrong in that form. Everything works fine. Like I have a user form. So user form over here, pretty simple form, like you have full name, email and password. So everything works perfectly fine, no problem at all. And on submit, we are just emitting an event of submit with the user details. Now the problem comes when, let's say I want to create a login form. Then in that case, I can reuse this form with same fields. But also the another problem comes, let's say I want to create multiple fields, or if I want to just pick up only one field, let's say I have a newsletter thing. So in that case, I want only full name or email or just email and subscribe. So I just want it to have a reusable component and my design on my website or my web page should be consistent. So how can I achieve that consistency? Well, you could say you can have CSS classes. Well, that's fine. But let's say if I want to create a new component, let's say newsletter component, then if I create an input there, then I have to copy this CSS class and put it over there. Now, if I make it as a global class, well, not every page will have input, and having that global class will have to will that import that input class as well on each page, or the CSS for this each page. So it's not necessary. So how can we make it as a reusable component? So let's start by our atomic design principle and start breaking down these things into atoms, and let's create a reusable form. So here what I'm going to do is I'll create a folder. I will call this form inside components. Now that form will have the label component, input component, and the form group component like this one. So let's create them one by one. So here I'm going to say label.view. And what I'm going to do is in that label.view, I can simply copy this label, put it over there. So vbase setup script. Let's put that label over here. And instead of calling this like full name, I'm going to pass a slot over here. Pretty simple. Along with that, to provide additional attributes, I'm going to say vbind $attributes attrs. Now let's bring in that label CSS. So this is our Tailwind classes for that label class. So let's get them from here, put it over here. And let's remove this lang SCSS. We don't need that. And also let's remove this. Perfect. So that becomes our label component. Now let's create a input component. And this is something like when you create an input component, how we can have a V model and we bring it in a form group, how we can attach that V model, all those things. We will see that in a moment. So here I'm going to say input.view. And here I'm going to copy this input with the classes and everything. Let's bring them over here. So vbase setup script. Let's put that input component over here. Awesome. Now here, what I'm going to do is instead of passing these things like that, I'm going to say vbind attributes or attrs. And here we will get our CSS for that input class, or that styling of with associated for that input class CSS class. So let's get these from here and let's bring them over here. Perfect. Now let's have that V model thing so that we can, when we create an input component, we can assign V model on that. So what I'm going to do here is, here I'm going to say const, or let's do it like this, define props first. Now here I will need model value. So here I'm going to say model value, that's going to be of type string. Okay. Then I will need an event. So here I'm going to say const emit equal to define emits, and that will be update model value. Perfect. Now what I'm going to do is whenever there is an input event happens on this thing, so I'm going to emit update model value and then event.target.value, whatever is the value of this input. Now this is how you can assign V model on a component. Now whenever we use input component, we can have V model and the attribute that we want to bind. And if you want to have that, then we need to spread that V model like this, because under the hood, V model does the same thing. It listens for the input event and it adds that, like, or not add, but actually attach that model value or the value of that input to the JavaScript variable or the reactive variable be assigned. So in this case, that V model is nothing but something like this. Now let's go to our user form. And we can bring in that label and input here, but we are not done yet. Let's make this form group also as a component. So here I could say form group dot view. Now to this form group, I can have label and input, and I can attach vModel on form group. Now this sounds very dangerous. So let me show you what do I mean. So here I could have that form group. Let's first create that form group. So I'm going to say class form group. Let's take this from here. Let's put it over here. Then let's bring those CSS as well. CSS. So that's our CSS for form group. Let's get it from here. Form group. Tailwind CSS comes here. Then we need to bring in our components. Now we can lazy load components. So I'm going to say import define async component from view. And then first I'm going to get input. So const input equal to define async component, and that actually is in the same folder. So we could simply say input.view like this. Then I'm going to do the same thing for label, const label. And here I'm going to say label. Now what I'm going to do is here I'm going to get that label first. So label, and whatever that label is, like whatever you could say user passes that label as, I will pass that label here. Okay. Then we will have our input, and we will attach those like those classes, not classes actually, but the placeholders and all those things in a moment over here. So let's take those as props over here. So here I'm going to say define props. And what props do we want? So we want the type for the input. That's going to be string. Then we want placeholder. Oops, placeholder. That's going to be string again. Then we want, let's say, our label. That's going to be string. Now, sometimes you might want to pass, let's say, classes for the label, classes for the input, because we already have our default classes for label in this, sorry, input over here. And also we have default classes for label over here. But let's say we want to have additional classes. So we could take it like this, label classes. That's going to be string, and input classes. That's going to be string again. And what I'm going to do now is here, whatever class comes, that will be our label classes, if there are any. Same for the input class, input classes, if there are any. Then the placeholder will be the placeholder from the prop. Type will be the type. Then now the vModel thing. But before that, let's see, we have everything here. Okay, we have almost everything here. You can also add other input properties like required or autocomplete and all those things. Now let's go for the vModel thing. Now ideally you can have something like this, vModel equal to some value. Let's say we have here some value like this, something like that. But the problem is, well, you can have something like this, but when you want to use vModel on the form, let's say, let's get that form group over here. So let's remove this one over here, and let's pass, or let's get form group. Let's get the component first. So let's lazy load that component as well. So import define async component from view. Let's get the form group. It's going to be our component form group equal to, and that's going to come from components form group. Okay. Now, if I want to use, let's say here vModel, and that I want to use it on, let's say, user.name or full name in our case, because that's what we have and inside our user object over here. Now, the problem is if I want to do vModel on this, then in that case, I need to have something here which does the same thing that it's been done over here. So what I'm going to do is, okay, if you notice, this is the actual event that's happening. So here I'm going to say on this form label, instead of putting vModel like this, I'm going to say when this event happens, run a function. So we will get that function quickly. So here I'm going to say const emit define emits, and here it's going to be the same thing, update model value. And here I'm going to say, okay, when this happens, then $emit, what's the event? Update model value and whatever value you want to emit. So in this case, the value will be the value coming from this model value. Now the value coming from this model value, we cannot use event.target.value. So what we could do is, instead of passing it like this, let's give it a function here and say pass input value. And here I could say, now here we will need the model value as well. Model value, this could be string as well as number. I should have done the same thing, because sometimes you might take numbers. So here we should have the same thing, string or number. And then going over here, I could say, oh sorry, I forgot the comma, this, yeah. And here I need to say pass input function. So there we will have the value. And here I'm going to say emit update model value. Okay, now let's go to our user form and let's put these things over there. So here we had label equal to full name, placeholder. Now we can also add placeholder because that wasn't there before. So I could say enter full name, type is of text. Right, now let's copy this line and put it over here. So this would be email, this would be label, would be email, this would be enter, oh, the E should be capital, just there, yeah, enter email, and I'm going to make this of type email. Then again, the next one, this will be password, the label should be password. Here I'm going to say enter password, could make this as this and this of type password. Perfect. So we have a pretty clean code now. Now let's see what do we have so far. So if we go back, okay, refresh the page. Okay, we have an error, unexpected token somewhere. So I just forgot a comma here. There we go. Now if we go back to see, okay, everything works fine. Refresh. Awesome. Now let's see if these values are binded. So what I'm going to do is, in user form here, when we submit it, where are we submitting here? So I'll just console the user like this. Okay, so console.log user. So let's see Aditya, and there we go. We have the user details here. Perfect. So we have inside the target, we have Aditya, like the full name, password, and all those things. Awesome. Now what I'm going to do is, let's see if it binds on the other way around. So for instance, here in this user, let's say I pass Aditya. Let's see if that's binded to our input. There we go. It's not binded. The reason is because, oops, not now. So the reason is we have provided from the, from this component side, the value, which is user.fullname with vModel, but we haven't binded that model value here. So here I'm going to say value will be model value. Okay, let's see now what happens, and refresh. Okay, it still won't work because we have binded it on this input, and we also need to bind it over here. So here I'm going to say value will be model value. Okay, perfect. Now why I'm doing like this, why I'm binding it twice? Because let's say if this input is used somewhere else, only this input component, then in that case I should have the same principle, like this value should be binded with a model value. As we are using form group, so this value is by this model value of this form group should be binded with this input. They're going to be one and the same. And there we go. We have it properly attached. Awesome. Now let's look for the validation, because we don't have a validation thing here, or to show any validation errors. So here I will take a span tag, giving it some Tailwind classes. So text red of 500, text sm, and here we will have the error message, error. So let's get that error message. Error will be of type string. And what I'm going to do is, inside user form, on each of these, I will pass that error. So here I'm going to say error. Let's bind this. And here I will have errors dot full name. Let's do it over here and here. This will be errors.email. This will be errors.password. Now let's create one error reactive object. Sorry, errors. We are calling it errors. So errors equal to reactive. And what I'm going to do is I will only show that errors if there is an error. So I will say if there is an error. Now let's create an error over here. So let's remove this value from here and let's just validate for the full name. So what I'm going to do is before we submit form, I'm going to say if user.fullname equal to blank, then in that case I want errors.fullname. Pretty simple. Name is required. And here I will just return so it doesn't go forward. Go back, let's submit. There we go. Name is required. Awesome. Now what I'm going to do is I will make this form more reusable by making this form as it's a user form. So we can make it as a sign up form and we can also make it as a login form. So what I'm going to do is here I'll take a prop. So here I will say define props and there I will have a form type prop. Now this prop, the default value for that, I'm going to give it sign up. Okay. So this is our props on this user form. Now what I'm going to do is in this button, first I will say, okay, if the form type prop is sign up, then just have the text of sign up. Otherwise have the text of sign in. And here I will show this full name one only if it's a sign up form because we don't want to show this on a login page. So here I'm going to say form type equal to sign up. Awesome. Now if we go back and refresh our page, there we go. We have a sign up form. Now let's create a login view. So let's go over here. I will call this new file sign in view.view. Oops, not view. And let's get this home view. It's going to be pretty same, like just need to pass things here. We can also create this reusable title component, no problem in that. I will say sign in to your account. Then here I'm going to say form type, that's going to be sign in. Now what I'm going to do is I need to add this route. So here in index.ts, I can just copy this one from here and make some edits. So this will be sign in. Let's remove all of these. They're just comments. And here I would say sign in. Awesome. Let's see if we go to sign in, what happens? Sign in. There we go. We have our sign in form. So just with one small change, we can just have this form as a reusable form. And also you can add those other things like, would you like to register or would you like to forget password if you're sign in, all those things. And that you can add it either in this user form because this user form is specifically for users. So you can add it over here or you can add it wherever you like, maybe in sign in view or home view. I think adding it over here would be a good idea because it's related to user form. And the other thing is here I have a form component. Now you could say, why not create this also as a reusable component? Well, we can create a form component and there we can say whether this form layout should be a column layout, like should it go vertical or should it be a row layout like horizontal. So in this case, we might just need a label and an input. And in that case, we just want to pass, okay, most probably for newsletters like email, label, then input and the button, they all are in one line. So to have that level of customization, that's why I have kept it as a separate component, or not actually a separate component, but I haven't taken it as a component at all. But of course, you can always create it as a component if in your web app, if you need to create it, that's totally fine. So this is just an example of how you can create a reusable component. You can create it again for other circumstances or other components as well. So that's all in this video. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you like this video, please hit the thumbs up button. If you feel this video is worth sharing with your network, please do share with your network. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do subscribe to my channel. So see you in the next video. Till the next time, goodbye.